Hello, my name is Tony Viducich, and I am a results leader.
You're listening to ResultsLeader.fm. Being a thought leader is easy. Getting results is hard. This show is for the results leader who lives and dies by their results. Here is your host and Chief Results Leader, Jonathan Rivera.
Yes, y'all. It's time once again for another ResultsLeader.fm. Welcome back. So glad that you're here. And as always, I have a treat for your ears. I've got another amazing guest, Mr. Tony Viducich. He's a coach. He helps teams perform at their best and get extraordinary results. He's a good man. And he puts family first, which is one of my favorite parts of this conversation. So let's jump in. Tony, welcome to the show. Are you ready to do this thing?
Absolutely, Jonathan.
Let's jump in. Let's give our listeners a quick win. What book or books have you given most as a gift?
Okay. One of them, it's a small book that's not many people know about it, but we really like it. It's called Foreign to Familiar, A Guide to Understanding Hot and Cold Climate Cultures by Sarah Lanier. And I give it out to people because it really unlocks a key for people who are dealing with people from other countries where they don't really understand, there's some opportunity for disconnect between people. So yeah, it's a really helpful little tool for people who deal with people from other cultures. The second one is called The Leadership Challenge by Kouzos and Posner. So I refer to this book often in some of my work with clients, and it really gives it a great framework for exemplary leadership in business. And so, yeah, I give that out quite a bit to people that I care about.
Let's have some fun, Tony. Tell me a story of how an apparent failure set you up for later success.
Okay. Let's see. So when I graduated from college, I was under this misconception that, people were going to line up to hire me right out of college. And I was kind of, set up for the fall a little bit, right, in terms of disappointment. It turned out it took a lot of work to get out there and get my name out there and get some opportunities going. But I ended up responding to an ad that was out there for a company I didn't really know anything about. I talked to somebody on the phone and they said, well, you're not really the kind of person that we're looking for, but why don't you send us your resume? If something comes up, we'll get in touch with you. So I thought, well, for sure, that's a no, right? They're just being polite. Anyway, I ended up getting a call back a few days later, did an impromptu interview on the phone right there. They called me in, for interviews. Anyway, long story short that was right out of college. I got hired on at Intel Corporation. And this was in 1986 before Intel really had taken off. And I thought, oh, it's fine. I mean, this wasn't going to be my first choice, but it ended up being just a great company that I worked for 28 years. And, it was just a tremendous shaper, right, in my life that I had no idea, right? And I thought I was sort of settling for second best, but it ended up being a really great opportunity for me.
I'm curious, you're going to college and you think people are going to be fighting to hire you. Why? What made you think that?
I don't know if it was, how the university kind of positioned it as, oh yeah, there's going to be all these great things. I mean, I graduated with honors, right, from business school. And I thought, oh, well, that certainly should make me stand out. And I think I just had this preconceived idea in my head that it was going to go that way. And they had a couple of companies come on campus to do some on-site interviews and stuff, but it was like lame, right? It was like, wait a second, and so then it was like the reality sunk in. It was like, oh gosh, I'm going to have to actually put some effort into this, sell myself as opposed to them, coming to look for me. So yeah, it was just sort of a paradigm. It was a miss on my part, right, in terms of thinking that was the way it was going to go.
What would you say is the most worthwhile investment you've ever made?
I think it really has been time with my family, especially my kids when they were little. I remember being faced with, as I was young in my career, early in my career, and it was like, I had a choice to make in terms of I can invest my time into my career and really give it, 110% to the, sacrifice of time with my family, or I can kind of, go a little bit slower route in my career, but, take advantage of that time and investing time with the kids, especially when they're little. And I have zero regret in that. I'm so glad that I did that. So, career growth came. I got some really good counsel from a manager at the time who said, you can go the fast track, but, count the cost basically, because, a lot of people who end up, going that fast track, getting to very high levels in their career early end up with, divorce, and they don't have a good relationship with their kids. And, it's just kind of a nightmare. And it's not that that's necessarily a bad thing, but it's a personal choice. And for me, that was something that I really am glad that I took time to be present, with my family when they were young, because it's like those years, you don't get them back. And now our kids are adults, right? And we've got, pretty decent relationships with them. And I attribute it directly back to making that investment when they were young. So,
How'd you make that choice? That's a tough choice between, hey, career fast track and hitting every goal I ever had, or the family route. And most people will choose the career fast track. How did you make that choice?
gosh, trust me, it was tempting. It was tempting to go the career one, because it's like, there's a lot of sort of immediate rewards with that, kudos and, monetary rewards. And you feel like, okay, I'm doing great. And I think one of the hardest parts was I was watching peers of mine who were choosing that route, right? And they were seeing the success of that and the fruit of that. And, it has been, I think it goes back to, it has been a goal of mine since I was fairly young, around like having a solid family and having, valuing that. And that goes back to, when I was growing up, my family wasn't super strong. And so as a youngster, I was like, gosh, I want to do this differently. And so I think that carried through into that early career stage where it's like, you know what, I'm going to just, it's sort of a self control thing, a little bit of discipline of like, gosh, I'm going to deny the short term gain here. And I'm super thankful for that counsel I got, right, from that manager who sat me down and said, because by the way, the reason we were having that conversation with that manager and why he gave me that counsel was I was pushing for advancement faster, right? And so that prompted the occasion for him to say, well, be careful what you ask for, basically, right? And so he kind of relayed some of his experience and story. So yeah, that's how I came to that conclusion.
In the last 5 years, what new belief, behavior, or habit has most improved your life?
Yeah, life is interesting, isn't it? You learn along the way. I think for me, practicing, and I'm still learning this, honestly, like practicing flexibility and holding on to things more loosely, right? And letting go of control. This is an interesting paradox for me, right? Because by nature, I tend to be kind of a planning person, right? And I like to get results. That's why I'm probably on this podcast. And, I like to manage things, right? Manage the outcome. But I'm learning that I'm really not in control of life. If the last couple of years haven't convinced everybody of that, I don't know what will, right? Is like, even our very lives, we don't really control, what's going on there. So, I'm finding that I can go through life a lot more peacefully if I don't think I have to control everything, right? It doesn't mean that you don't have a plan, you don't do your diligence, you don't, have a way to try and manage the results. But when, life takes twists and turns that you inevitably will happen, it doesn't like stress you out to the point where I get debilitated, right? It's like, well, stuff's going to happen that I can't control, and that's okay, right? And learning to accept that is really a gift.
Yeah, I hear you speaking of surrender. I don't know if you're a man of faith like I am, but it's like we can control the inputs, we can't control the outflow. And so that's a very mature and wise way of looking at the world. And I can hear the peace coming through you as you speak it. So, man, kudos to you on that. What are some bad recommendations you hear in your area of expertise?
There's a myth out there that is you've got to stay up to date with all the current, thinking and the latest trends and, what's the latest, theories that are out there and whatnot. That's horrible advice, in my opinion, right? Because especially in the world of business, there's so much information. I mean, the information age we live in, it's just like we are bombarded with, the latest book and the latest theories and this and that and the other thing. And some of it's good. I mean, I'm sure there's good stuff there. And I'm not a proponent of go put your head in the sand, right? But the noise level is so intense that you can just become so distracted and unfocused. So yeah, the bad advice is, just keep your finger on that pulse and constantly be taking in more, right, information about, what's the latest thing I should be doing. And that just detracts so badly from actually executing and focusing, right? So kind of the anecdote to that is like back to basics, like be very convinced of what it takes to execute and stick to that, right? And sure, stay current by reading, right? I'm a big fan of reading and staying, but you can swamp the boat really quickly, right? With just constantly trying to stay up with, well, what's the latest fad and who's the latest, talking head that's saying something out there.
All right, I know you were getting into that, and we were just about to get into my favorite part where we talk about results. But first, I want to ask you a question. Are you picking up what we're laying down on this show? Are you digging what we are sharing? If you are, why not make yourself a hero today and share this with somebody who can use it? Put this out on your social media channels. #ResultsLeaderFM. I'll be out there looking for you, and I'll make sure to boost it up too when I see you. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's jump back into the interview. Let's talk about results. Why do results matter, Tony?
I'm a person who really likes quotes because I think, especially from people that, are well known, because they just capture it really well. So Peter Drucker, I'm a big fan of Peter Drucker. He had this quote, and it answers your question. He said, there are two types of people in business community, those who produce results and those who give you reasons why they didn't. I think that pretty much says it all. It's like, you're either getting results or you're not, right? And if you're not, it's like you're giving excuses basically as to why you didn't get results. But why results matter is it's kind of like, well, why are we doing the effort in the first place, right? It's like it's the product of what we're intending to accomplish, right? So if we're not getting results, then we're really just wasting our time and resources, right? So it's like, well, if we're not seeing the results, then why expend the effort in the first place? But, as I think about that question, there's even probably a more fundamental question behind it, which is, results to what end? Results of what? Are you focused on the results that will really matter in the end? I'm aware that we can be really busy, doing a whole bunch of activities and even posting, things that look like results, but then they're not actually leading us to what it is we're actually wanting to accomplish, right? So it has to start, this whole question of results in my mind has to start with, what is the destination you're wanting to get to? And that's a question that I work with clients quite a bit on, as we start a new engagement, is what's the goal that you're trying to accomplish? Right? Because we can do a whole bunch of activity and get stuff done and check boxes, but unless it's actually accomplishing the goal or the vision or the dream that you have, then you're just doing busy work. That's why results matter.
Powerful. And I want to highlight this for our listeners. Go back and listen to what Tony said earlier. He knew what he wanted. He wanted a good family life. He wanted a good relationship with his kids. So he put his family first, and now he's got that. Those were the results that mattered to him. He knew his why, and now the guy is living in peace. So knowing your why and attacking it ferociously is going to get you where you want to go. And this guy is just showing you that. Like, you just demonstrated that right here in front of your eye, or actually in front of your ears. But I appreciate that so much because I'm a family man as well, and I put my family first, and I want to make sure we highlight that. So in the last 5 years, what new realization has helped you get better results for your clients?
Yeah, it kind of ties back to what we were just talking about. But first things first, when I working with clients, and this directly ties to results, but it's getting clarity about their purpose and mission, right? Both them personally, but then for their business. And you'd be surprised at how many people, I come in contact with that are sort of fuzzy and muddy on that question of purpose and mission. And it really makes a huge difference, right? In terms of, if you don't know it's been said, if you don't know what you're aiming at, you'll hit it every time, right? And it's like, man, if you aren't clear, if you don't have that clarity around, your purpose and mission, you can become rudderless very quickly, right? In terms of, well, what am I doing? So that's one thing in the last few years that's helped clients a lot, is to sort of gain clarity on what is it they're actually going for. And then that comes out in their organization's mission too, because that helps communicate to their teams, this is what we're about, right? And it helps give direction to the team, which then furthers them to be able to contribute to that mission and accomplish the results that you really want, right? So, but it all starts with kind of that purpose and mission. The second one, it's not a new idea to me, but I've found it to be really helpful as I work with clients, and that is the concept of what's measured matters. Just the whole idea. It's a very simple thought, but it's the whole idea of measuring things, being very careful about what it is that we actually want to measure, what data do we want to look at. But that actually is very key in getting results, because there's just this phenomenon, which is what you're measuring, you're paying attention to, and what you're paying attention to, you will actually subconsciously and consciously focus on and get the results that you're trying to get. So it's almost magic, right? How it works, but it's an incredible thing just to identify some simple key performance indicators that you're looking at regularly and sort of building a system around how you're going to, watch that and what your goals are to accomplish with those measured pieces of data.
What area of your business would you like better results, Tony?
Something I've realized about myself is that, I'm wired. This gets to, some of the stuff we've been talking about. I'm wired to get results, like immediate cause effect results, right? I kind of have to see, you put in this effort in this spot, you're going to get this outcome in that spot, right? What has driven me a little bit nuts is in the space of marketing and sales, is like, it's not that one for one. I'm realizing it's not that same one for one. You put this effort in, you get this result. It's more of it's a different dynamic that's at play. It's like you put in some intelligent effort over here and, wait 6 months, you add water and all that, and then you might get some results over here. So it's a lot squishier, if you will, right, in terms of the correlation between cause and effect. But yeah, that's something that I've struggled a little bit, right, in getting the results that I would like to see immediately, right? It's not as direct. It's a lot more indirect, is what I found.
What results are you most proud of?
And this kind of gets to some of the stuff we talked about earlier about family and an investment there, but super proud of my kids, right? We've got 4 kids, and they're all adults now. They've all graduated from college, married, they're starting their own families. So I'm super proud of that, just to kind of see the journey and the where they've gotten in life. But as it relates to professional stuff, it's kind of connected to that. As I work with my clients, not that they're children, right? But I kind of take them under my wings. a little bit, right? And like to see them develop and grow, right? And flourish. And so when I see their results, like, their revenue and their profit growing year on year, that excites me, right? I get proud of that. We just recently, came through year end. And so comparing those year on year results is just like, that's sweet when you can see it's making a difference, right? Another example, helping a client overcome a certain problem that is just they've been struggling with for years. And it's like now suddenly they're having a breakthrough, right? I get really jazzed about that kind of stuff. Yeah, so those are things that I'm really proud of. In my own kind of professional career, I can point back to a particular project when I was working at Intel. I was involved in mergers and acquisition stuff, and it was relatively new to the M&A area, the role that I was in, and this monster acquisition came up. It was the biggest one that Intel had done at that time. I was not in charge of the whole thing, but a big chunk of it, right? The integration and making it happen. And there were people that were telling me it can't be done. We've never done this before in this time frame and whatever. Anyway, but yeah, we got a team assembled and we made it happen, right? It was within budget, it was on time, we nailed the scope. So that felt really great, right? To be able to get that done, especially when, people said it just couldn't be done, right? So that felt really great as an accomplishment.
Excellent, man. Any parting thoughts you want to share with the results leaders who are listening to us?
I guess I want to leave, your listeners with kind of a word of hope and encouragement. And it goes like this, that, getting outstanding results is probably more possible than people might think. So, with the right perspective, focus, and discipline, much can be accomplished. And I'll end another quote with one of my other favorite guys, Patrick Lencioni is his name, but he says this in one of his books. Success is not a matter of mastering subtle, sophisticated theory, but rather of embracing common sense with uncommon levels of discipline and persistence.
I dig it, man.
So I love it.
I dig it. I know people are going to want more from you. Where can they go to get it?
They can go to my website, www.tonyviducich.com, and that's tricky to spell, so that's probably going to be on your, hopefully you'll post that up for people to look at.
We will share links to everything in the show notes. We've been talking to Tony Viducich. I got it right. I know I got it right.
You did. Good job.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for tuning in, and we will be back in your earbuds next time. That is a wrap for another edition of ResultsLeader.fm. If you are out there getting results for your clients and you want to be featured on the show, go to ResultsLeader.fm now and apply to be on the show. And if you love what you're hearing, share the show, give us a rating and review, do anything to help us get the message out there. Thought leadership is easy, but results leadership is hard. We'll catch you on the next one.
This program is brought to you by thepodcastfactory.com.